TUFF SHIFT. Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of TUFF SHIFT, the podcast where we unpack all that goes into surviving the job and living the dream. I am your host, Sean Patrick Murtagh. And let me really actually just say welcome back. Actually, let me blah 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 blah. Yep, it's happening already. I'm not even that tired. I don't know what's going on. I just want to say that I said to myself, "You're not going to sing because you sang last week." And what did I do? I hello world you as if I was Glinda descending in a bubble to celebrate Elphaba's death. Spoiler alert. That's what Wicked's about, but not really a spoiler alert if you've seen the show. Dun, dun, dun. That has nothing to do with today's episode. I want to say welcome back, particularly because this is a tough shift first. I knew it was bound to happen. I assumed that someone like Josh would be the person that it happened with. I'm a little upset at myself that I didn't do this earlier, because there's been so many great conversations I've had with guests, and I've just felt, the need to cut it short, keep it short. And when I interviewed Matthew English, it was like, God, I could almost make this 2 episodes, but I didn't. I kept it as one. Same thing with Blake. I just so many wonderful people that I could have talked to forever, and I didn't. And here with Josh, it was like there was no way I was stopping the conversation. There was no way whatsoever. We were having too much fun. So I just checked in with him and said, "Hey, do you want to keep going?" And we did. And we are ending up with our Tough Shift first ever 2-parter episode. And so last week we talked with Josh, and we kind of unpacked how he got started in hospitality, a few tough shifts, a few hot takes, and all about that. We learned about Josh, the waiter, the dishwasher, the manager, thoughts about espresso martinis. And this week, we're going to talk about Josh, the performer, the artist, the director, the acting coach, the incredible human being that is a community builder. I mentioned that in last week's episode, or maybe it's this week's. I don't know. I still have to edit it. But he really is a community builder in the most wonderful way. He is, as I said in last week's intro, one of the most beloved people in the New York City acting scene, and it's for good reason. And I think for myself, I know that part of how I gauge success and happiness and knowing you're on the right path is being part of a good community, being part of a community of people, of artists, whatever the community is, that cheers each other on, that uplifts one another. When you have someone that you have this safety net of other human beings who are in similar situations to you, who have had similar experiences, you've had know what you're going through, have either been there or will be there. It is such a relief to know that you're not alone. And when you have sweet moments, oh, the sweet just taste even sweeter. And, the bitter times, well, they're a little more palatable. And that's what we're doing here on this podcast as well, is just building out our community so that way we're seeing one another. We're sharing each other's success. We're cheering each other on. We are a community of people that have had experiences, that have had tough shifts, and that are working towards creating something in this world that either entertains or brings beauty to so many people. And this podcast specifically, the community that we're building, I'm amazed. I'm in awe. I actually was at Cast Party last night. They were in LA. I'm not in New York. Jim Caruso and Billy Stritch were out here, and I was able to go. I wasn't working, and I don't get to sing the way that I get to sing, or that I got to sing in New York, out here in LA. So I was just so excited to finally, um, to finally get up at an open mic in Los Angeles and just sing my heart out for everyone. And I got to get up on stage and I got to talk about this podcast and just how beautiful it is for me to be able to build this community and how quickly things are just moving. And I thought I would share some of the examples of how this community has taken on a life itself. Um, so recently, as I've been mentioning, oh God, he's going to bring up training again. Um, yes, back when I was training for my current restaurant job, I was having a day. I was having a day. I was heading to work. I had so many things just crammed in my head, and I was feeling down. I was like, kind of depressed, kind of like over it. Like, I don't want to work here anyway. I don't want to take another test. This is all awful. What am I doing with my life? Just when you're overwhelmed, all those fun thoughts creep in. And I opened Instagram and I had a voicemail from friend of the pod, Matthew English, who just wanted to thank me and just like say, hey, you know what? You're doing something, because last night I was at a comedy show and someone came up and said that they started following me because they heard me on your show, Tough Shift, and that's why they ended up coming out to see me perform live. So thank you so much for having listeners in Atlanta. He, of course, didn't get the person's name, and for some reason, I'm blanking on who I know in Atlanta. I know my friend from high school, Sharon, is out there with her family, and I have a hard time because, with this world of social media where we're all so connected and attached, I don't really know where anyone really is anymore. People still think I'm in New York. People think I'm in San Francisco. People are like, when did you get to LA? Because all of our friends are on Facebook, right? We're all connected wherever we are, and we don't know where that is. So, dear listener, who is a friend, I'm told. I'm sorry that I don't know you moved to Atlanta, or maybe I did, and I'm just having one of those senior gay moments. But thank you for being part of building this community and for going to support and cheer on Matthew English. Um, and that voicemail just completely changed my day around. And I sent him a little voice memo back and I said, hey, you know what? I couldn't have heard this at a better time. I am just having a terrible, awful, no good, very bad day, or however that book is titled. And that really uplifted my spirits. I needed that. That what I am working towards is creating an impact, is touching lives. And of course, he responded back and said, just showered me with all these compliments and was like, if you're ever having a bad day, just reach out. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for, to cheer each other on. And like, that couldn't be any more of what I wanted from this podcast coming to be. And even more further examples of that: the magical, the uplifting, the light, the beautiful being that is Nathan Nolan Edwards, who was a recent guest on the show. And he has, I mean, since like day one of this podcast, has been liking, commenting, sharing, texting me like, oh, here's something I saw. Was that an earthquake? Nope, that was just me talking. Texting me, things that he saw that he thought I would find funny based on what we talked about on the podcast. But also, he's taken things a step further, and he's been supporting other guests of the podcast. He went to Nelson Aspen's book signing in New York City, captured that on camera, and made sure I knew about that. Recently, he ran into Josh Bardier and sent me a picture saying, "Hey, look, it's two tough shifties," which might be the new name, Tough Shifties, and that just made my heart so happy. And then when I was talking, I love Josh, I love him. This is just so beautiful. He mentioned that he was just finished with a scene partner, and they were getting to know each other for the first time before they, get to work on the text and all that. And his scene partner asked him if he had ever heard of the podcast Tough Shift and said he might like it. And Nathan said, not only do I like it, but I've been on it. And I was like, who is this magical person that is just promoting my show? And he sends me a picture, and it is the wonderful Ben Burke, who I only know on social media. I know he'll be a friend in real life someday and maybe come on the podcast himself, but just all these paths crossing over, all these lives overlapping. It is just such an amazing thing to experience. And on a little fun note, I want to give another shout out to Matt Pagel, who is just, I mean, he couldn't be more engaging on social media, which really does help run numbers up, get this podcast out to more people, get the content that I share seen by more people. And it's almost as if he's like doing commenting on while he's listening. So he's listening, and then on Instagram he's commenting as he goes, which I just love because it's this nice little back and forth. I'm like, oh, someone's actually listening to this little thing that I'm doing. But in last week's episode, when Josh was sharing his hot take on espresso martinis, Matt, who follow him at hysterical underscore Bertha on Instagram, commented, because we were talking shit about espresso martinis, uh, asking if I put bitters in my espresso martinis, bringing it back to a few episodes ago when I was talking about Negroni Gate. I'm not sure if y'all remember Negroni Gate, but if you don't, go find that episode with Deborah Richards and Robin Clausen, where I share about the experience I had bartending at a catering event, where one of the sweetest guys that I know, and he's very, very talented, very capable bartender, was just like having a moment over the fact that we had bitters on our call sheet for our Negroni build. And he just like wouldn't let it go. And I'm like, hey, dude, whatever. Fine, Negroni Gate. But the fact that he's like, Matt is like being a little shit stirrer. It's like, not just that you're engaging in the podcast, but the fact that you're a little shit stirrer in the best way. Because I don't know if he's the baby. Matt, are you the baby of your family? Because I'm the baby of my family. And that is such a baby thing to do, is just kind of stir the pot a little bit. Like when the waters get too calm or when they're not expecting it, just bring up something that annoys people, bring up something that they're embarrassed about, bring up something that triggers somebody for your own amusement. And so I see myself in you when you bring up Negroni Gate. And just a little update, I'm actually going back for a catering shift at that beautiful center where I work with this other bartender. And I, of course, am going. It's been 3 months, maybe a little more since I saw him last. The first thing I'm going to do is bring up bitters. I'm gonna tell him about how to make a Negroni. I'm gonna tease him. We're gonna be doing that all night, and we're gonna have the best time just making fun of each other. So hopefully for next week's episode, I have a little update on Negroni Gate for you. But that's enough about me rambling on. We need to get to Josh because there's so much to talk about. This artist, let me just refresh you all. He's an actor, he's a comedian, he's a writer, director, and MC. He is an acting coach, which you are about to find out. And just do me the favor, if you need to brush up on your monologues, if you're feeling a bit stale in your audition life, if you have to give a presentation at work and you're not an actor, reach out to Josh. He can help you and you will not be sorry. He's a phenomenal human being. Last week we talked about the restaurant life that we both live and the ups and downs and adventures with some crazy tough shifts. And this week, like I said earlier, we're going to unpack the artist that is Josh. So I'm going to start this week's episode with a little bit of last week's episode, just so that way we're kind of refreshed. So that last really intense story is going to be where we pick up here, and then we'll move on out to everything you need to know about Josh Bardier. But before we get to the episode, I just want to give a little content warning. In this episode, we do briefly discuss the topic of suicide. Very, very briefly, but I don't want to blindside anyone. So If you need to skip this episode for that reason, please take care of yourself. Put yourself first. We will be here for you next week. And if you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, tendencies, please reach out to the National Institute of Mental Health. You can visit their website at www.nimh.nih.gov, or you can call or text 988 to get the resources and help you need. Please take care of yourselves, and let's take care of each other. All right, here we go. Josh Bardier, everyone. Can you share this story that you shared with the world on social media?
Yeah, of course. It was a sad day because I do want to, and I don't try to make excuses, but I would say 98% of the people that come to the bar that I work at now are wonderful people, or at least respectful people, at least bare minimum. It is very rare for us to have anything happen. Like I've been there now for a little over 2 years. I can count on one hand the number of incidents, and they're not even that big of a deal. But this one was just so, ugh. We have an outside garden, which I was taking care of the tables out there, and there were two of us working. My coworker, who is like a brother to me, and we tag team. You know, if it gets busy, we tag team. And this guy came to sit with his group, and they all got wine and they were having a perfectly great time. I had seen them, I served them, there were no problems. I was just busy taking care of an older gentleman who needed help picking a wine. And so Mauricio went to go do a sweep of the garden and saw that that table specifically had their check and left the credit cards. He went to go run them. One of the credit cards didn't run. It was the guy who had joined the two women. And he that's all I knew. And then before I knew it, Mauricio was coming in, my coworker, and he was walking, and he just had this look, like this look of something's not right. I try to live in the world, especially where I am at this point. I kind of take on the managerial role when needed because we don't have a manager. So I'll do that because we all have collectively decided that that helps for when we have to deal with instances like this. But my rule of thumb is always let the person who is dealing with it deal with it, and don't get involved unless absolutely necessary, because then they get even more defensive if there's two people. So I'm just listening, and what ended up happening was the guy's card declined. Just declined. It's not that deep. Like, cards decline all the time. It's not like 1995 and we're walking up like, and it's your only credit card. I have no clue what happened in this guy's mind. But Mauricio said, I can use your phone if you just get it. He used the phone. The phone didn't work. And then he looks at me and he just says the nastiest thing I've heard in a long time, where he looks at me and goes, can you come over here and help him deal with that? Because he can't even understand a word of English that I'm saying. And I was just like, first of all, this man is the institution. He has been working here as a bartender for almost 14 years. The place runs because of him. Like, so I just looked at this guy and I was like, no, man, that's not how we talk to people here. Like, no, I'm not getting involved. So I just stood there. Everybody's now watching. And he tries his phone again, gets a different credit card, and it works and everything. And Mauricio hands him the pieces of paper, because we're still old school and give people paper. And, you know, I expected after this altercation that, you know, we were going to be left with no tip. That's fine. Life happens. Still to this day, even though I have my beliefs on tipping and understanding like what I get paid and what I don't get paid, like at the end of the day, when it comes to that line that says tip, that is your right. That's your right as an American. I understand. And he wrote in the signature line, go fuck yourself. And I saw Mauricio grab the paper, and I saw him kind of take it and do a little like. So I went and grabbed it to see how little of a tip he left, and I saw it for the first time. And I was behind the bar going to this guy as faster than you would have ever seen me run. And he was with the girl who he was on a date with. And I
Oh,
just,
call him out. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
and I just, I followed them. I followed them out. Never touched him. Let me preface. I never touched him. I never physically was near him, but I certainly was at least invading his personal space to make sure that as he was walking, trying to walk past me, I was in front of him. And all I kept saying to him was, "Do you see this? Like, this isn't what you do to human beings. Like, what did I do to you? I was your server. What did I do to you for
Hmm.
this to be written? What possessed you?" And he's like, "Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone." And the girl is, I'm like, "Why are you dating this person? Like, what is going on, girl? Like, this is
That's
just,
gonna come back to you one day.
this
He's
is,"
gonna start treating you that way.
and he's like grabbing her, and they're just trying to walk, and I'm just going. What this guy doesn't realize is that where I work in the village, we are all the bars. We are all family and know each other. So everyone from the Irish pub hears me screaming at somebody on the streets. They come out and there's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Look at what he wrote." So now you have 5 bartenders and 2 bouncers just circling this guy, being like, "This is not what you do in the world. You don't want to leave a tip? Don't leave a tip. You write something like that, you've got a problem with
Mm.
all of us."
And you're the one with the declining cards. Your broke ass. Your broke ass can go fuck yourself.
Amen. So, they finally decided to just run through traffic across the street. And I did get my vengeance because the friend who was with them was downstairs in the bathroom and missed all this and was walking up the stairs when I came back in. And I was like, "Can I just tell you like what just happened?" And I explained, and I showed her the receipt, and she took a picture, and she said, I was meeting that guy for the first time today. Um, and she felt horrible. She felt so apologetic.
Mm.
And she's like, I have to talk to my friend. Like, he's horrible.
Yeah.
It left a deep sense of sadness. It was the disrespect. It
Hmm.
was it was the it was the feeling of, you're angry, you're upset, you're projecting a lot, but the way that you're handling and conducting yourself is not the world. And no longer are we in the customer is always right or any of that. Like, we've gone past that now. We've gone past any form of me being hospitable to you. And it set me off, and I posted it on Instagram because the thoughts that started hitting inside me is, we exist in a world, in an industry where it is almost impossible to get help for this, to be supported. Yes, people would say, "Oh, but you have managers." No. What's a manager going to do? Exactly what are they going to do? They might do what we do. They might kick them out. They might say that, but they still have the power to go onto Google and write their own narrative and write their 1-star review of what happened. And it just gets to sit there because that's the way it works. We don't have an HR department to go to. We don't get
And HR is never for the employee. The
never.
HR is always for the company.
Always. We don't get asked, "Do we need to go and take a break? Like, do we need, like, how's your mental health right now?
Are you
Where are you?"
hungry? Do you thirst? None of that.
None. None. We're just told, like, this is, "Oh wow, people are crazy." I feel like that's a very New York thing to say, is, "Oh, people are crazy. Let's move on." Uh,
We normalize so much bad behavior in New York, and specifically like the bad behavior in New York a lot, and it's just part of like New York culture in general, is like the level of disrespect that I got here, and it's like, calm down, calm down, Gianni. Like, it's not that deep, like the person who you took her drink, the level of disrespect, that's all I could hear her saying that. I could
Yes.
I could hear that because it's this weird thing in New York where people justify their bad behavior because nobody disrespects me. And it's like, is this 1970 New York? Like, is this, what is going on here? And why are we turning into animals over,
Yes.
like, I didn't cut off your foot, I didn't feel steal your food supply, I didn't burn down your house. Like, why are we acting like we're north of the wall in Game of Thrones? Second Game of Thrones reference. Like, why are
Boom.
we acting feral? Why are we acting feral to each
That's
other?
it.
And why are we going out to dates with men who are acting feral? Why are we going out to eat with friends who have? We talked about this a few weeks ago. Being with people who treat their servers badly, who treat the people, treat anyone badly. Why do you associate with those people? And
Hmm.
we'll just say, oh well, New York's New York.
Nope. Get better friends. Tell
Get
them tell them to treat the servers better.
And I do want to apologize for using that extremely stereotypical New York accent because it's rarely, though sometimes, it's rarely a true New Yorker. Um, it's usually a transplant. It's usually
Yeah.
somebody who's come to New York. I had a guest recently, and when he found out I lived in New York, it was like everything was like he did that New York thing, like New York, we're from New York. Motherfucker did the most New York thing. He left me $100 tip on a $200 bill just because I was from New York. So I want to give a shout out. I want to call myself out, hold myself accountable because I took an entire test about integrity and accountability.
I
So
can't.
I'm
I
sorry.
can't.
I'm sorry, Gianni. I'm sorry, Gianni.
I
Okay.
was I was backstage when you were talking all about these tests. It's just like I
It's
can't.
not. It's not real.
It's
It's not real
no,
hospitality.
it's not real. Do you know that for me, and that's the thing, and frankly, what you said about being able to edit the list that comes into your house and how they're treated. It's the same way. If you show me respect, I'm also talking. I think people get very confused about what generally most of us in this industry mean by respect. We mean don't talk at us, have some patience, understand that this is not your living room, and just take the time to know what you want or actually prepare the question that you want to ask. Not because we don't want to sit and talk with you or help you, but we have other people to take care of. You are not the center of the universe.
It's a shared experience.
I cannot stay with you for 15 minutes while you talk to yourself about every type of wine that's on the menu. It's just not physically possible for me. So, of course, I'm going to say, why don't I give you some more time and I'll circle back? That's all I'm asking for. That's the type of respect. What I always say, and I know we all see this, if you have worked in the service industry, 9 out of 10 times you pile your plates for the server who's coming to clear them.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. I appreciate it, but don't do it because it sets this precedent where the world, it's so interesting to me. It's like it's these things. I'm like, I don't need that. Isn't respect to me. Respect is just, hey, are you guys done with your meal? Yep. Can I clear your plates? Absolutely. Awesome. That's all I need to know. That's it. It's very, very simple. We're not asking for much. And frankly, I would go as far as to say I would be perfectly happy if you tipped under 20%, even though I know you won't, if I was respected 100% of the time. I would take the 18% for respect 100% of the time. But because I have to deal with disrespectful people and a couple respectful people, it's got to go to 20 because Papa's got to pay his bills and his premium for his insurance because I need to go talk to my therapist about
Yeah.
y'all on Thursday at 10.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Spoiler, we're doing this to supplement our income. It doesn't mean that we don't, that I always hated the word survival job. Like I've never ever used that because I enjoy my job. I enjoy, for the most part, going to work. maybe not every day. Some days you just don't want to go to work. That's life. But I enjoy my job. So I've always said it's to supplement, to pay the bills while I'm striving towards whatever is the next goal, whatever that is. All I'm asking for in return is maybe some pleases and some thank yous and not leaving like a pit of a mess. And my biggest pet peeve in the world, don't you dare put your gum on my bar.
Don't do, the fact that servers have to still check under tables for people. There are just things, and it's like always just like this. Do you have a napkin? Do you have a paper napkin? It's like there are things that I'm just like, bring your own shit. Bring your if you have a child, you are it's nice. I don't like working at places where there's coloring books for kids, but it's nice if that's offered, but that's your child, so you need to make sure that there's nanners and snacks, and you
That's
need to know
it.
that they have something to occupy. If you bring a dog, which in LA, they bring dogs everywhere. I have a dog. I love dogs. But bringing your dog everywhere, we talked about this with Jamie a few weeks ago, is not an enjoyable experience. So it's nice when people with big patios have, dog bowls, but you should have your own water source for your dog that you're planning on keeping out of the house for 5 hours. And the other thing is, what did you just say?
I
Oh, the paper napkin. Like, if you have gum, like have a tissue, have a this, have a that. Like, just uh, or it doesn't live in your belly for 7 years. Swallow the fucking gum. I do it all the time. Just
I'm
swallow the
and
fucking gum.
see, I'm happy to get you a paper napkin. But don't put it on my dishes. Don't put it on my bar. Like it's just nasty. It's
And
it's
don't
just
blow your nose into napkins, you fucking pigs.
like we got to deal with it's very interesting to me though, but because I always go back to like the main question I always think I want to ask people is like who hurt you, and then what like
But they might
in the
tell you, and then you're stuck there for another 20 minutes.
exactly, but in the restaurant world I'm always like who raised you,
Oh,
like
yeah.
who possibly could have raised you.
Would
It's
your
just
mom be proud of this behavior?
and once I did ask somebody that and they said my mom's dead, I went well exactly, exactly.
That is so fucking dark and so hilarious. I want to transition. Hold on, I need one more moment. You mentioned about people, treating it like their living room, and they're the only person, and that what's going on in society with that is creeping into other areas. It's creeping into
Yes.
theaters. This was even before the pandemic, when there was like some guy needed to charge his phone, so he walked to the set to try and plug it in on the outlet that was there just for the
Oh
set that
yeah.
was it. Just like, what the fuck is with people? So all that to say, let's talk about you, the performer, like what you're doing these jobs for, what you're supplementing. I want to talk about your debut show in New York, because I remember what a wild experience it seemed to be, because here
Yeah.
you are, like, you moved to New York, this is the dream, and then it's like, oh, it's me, I am the
Yeah.
show, and it's New York and it's off Broadway. Like, share that journey, unpack a little bit of like how it started and what the process was, because it was an intense show.
It was. It was. The show was a musical that it's a Korean sensation. It started in Korea. It was written there. The Koreans in theater, they love thrillers and they also love musicals. So they combined a thriller story and a musical into one, and it was very much a psychological whodunit. And it was about a serial killer with multiple personalities, and the entire show was to figure out which of these personalities was the murderer of this family. It was me on stage for the entire time, never leaving. It was the most difficult thing I have ever had to do in my life. It was vocally taxing, it was physically taxing. It was, yeah, and it was my off Broadway debut, and it was exactly that. It was a proper debut. It was proper off Broadway, and 8 shows a week, no understudy, so there was always that feeling of Okay. And in Korea, they had two people. Oh, they split the performances for two people for the 8 show week, but
How
for
very
New
Christine Day of them.
yeah, absolutely. But for New York, they met me and they're like, "Well, we got one." So, um,
And
it's
there's
a
not another Josh in New York, just
I don't
there's
think
not.
there is anyone crazy enough to say yes to this. The thing I always go back to remind, because I tell this in the coachings that I do with other actors, is that audition I wrote down. This was still when like I had a calendar that I wrote auditions in because I was maybe looking at backstage or and I remember specifically writing it down but not really thinking much about going, and it was the end of a day and I said to myself, you know what, I'm just gonna go. It's been a long audition day. It was one of those hustle ones. It was November, so it was right before everything was going to close up in December for a while, and I just remember saying, you know, I'm just going to go, just sing a song. I'm gonna sing whatever. I'm not gonna get called back or anything. Don't worry about it. Always remember that the things that you rarely think you're gonna get, or the things that you put the least amount of effort into, sometimes turn out to be the ones that you book. And I walked out of the room and I was convinced that I had, you know, just done my thing and moved on. And they had asked me to sing like 4 things for my book, but I honestly didn't think anything about it whatsoever. Um, and then I got the call for the callback. And when I got to the callback, they had me get there about 30 minutes before what I realized everybody else was. And they offered me the role then. And the rest of the day was going to be finding the other two characters that fit well in chemistry tests with me. And it was very interesting because I didn't really have a say in that. I mean, they didn't really know me other than wanting to hire me on the spot. But the two people who I wanted without saying anything or putting any uh, asks in for ended up being the people who got hired. So
Wait, it wasn't a one-man show?
it was there was two other people.
Okay.
They helped engineer allowing the show to go. Um, and they both were incredible actors who were very generous and allowed me to get very very lost in the material. It was a duo directing team, and their biggest ask of me was to trust my process.
Hmm.
They let me do the whole like just get lost in it, and come up for air if you need to, but we're not gonna do a lot of finessing until the very very end. It was just a lot of coming in and trying things and me deciding, does this feel right, because each of the personalities had to have not only a different physicality but a different speaking voice, and the really hard part was a different singing voice.
Mm.
And finding what are their styles. Is this the one that's more pop rock screaming? Is this the one, like there was one that was a woman, so how high in falsetto can we get it? Are we pulling Mary Sunshine notes? And it was a lot of exploring and figuring out what worked, and then ironically just being like, okay, we're not even thinking about what is the 8 show a week performance going to look like. It really was just like, okay, can Josh show up the next day? And if he can do that character and that character, great, let's move to the next character. The hardest part was when they would all come out at once.
Yeah.
Um, we had a really really lovely run. It was weird because um, I think the best review I got, I forget who it was, but it was at the same time as Dear Evan Hansen, and they were very kind to say that they could come see somebody work just as hard as Ben Platt, but for at least 3 times cheaper. Yeah, so I was very appreciative of that. But it's one of those wild things in the world of show business that just gets you humbled. We had the reviews come, we did the press days, we did everything. They spent the money. It was on Playbill. It was on all of these things. Today Ticks had just started, and it was even on Today Ticks. And I had really high hopes. I was like, this is gonna be the thing that I worked this hard. I made it. Like, now this is going to be the thing that gets me the agent and the manager and the lawyer and the opportunities. And now I'm going to be bi-coastal and I'm going to be doing da-da-da. And then nothing happened. My
Yeah.
other two castmates, the gentleman who was in it booked Beautiful on Broadway and went 1 week after our show closed, went directly into Beautiful. And the girl who was in the show ended up getting a main role in a NBC show that lasted one season. But they both booked those things while we were down in our dressing rooms doing this show while I was basically dying every day.
Hey there, just checking in. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. And if you are, why not leave us a 5-star review and a comment or two wherever you're listening to this from? And don't forget to follow us on social media at TUFF SHIFT Podcast. That's TUFF Shift Podcast. Everywhere. Literally everywhere. And just a reminder, gratuities not included, but tips are always welcome. And you can find our virtual tip jar at tuffshiftpodcast.com. That's TUFF Shift Podcast.com. All right, back to the show. Me next, me next. And that's, I mean, I'm sorry that it didn't continue because like this is what happens. Like, and I want to point out that you make a wonderful point about how as actors we get tunnel vision when looking at things. If we don't see recognizable names, if we don't see Mary Sugarman, if we don't see Rachel Hoffman, if we don't see Bernie Telsey, if we don't see Stephen Oremus, if we don't see certain names, like we're not gonna. I'm only going to phantom calls. I'm only going to these calls. And we get tunnel vision. And the show that we did together, when I did the first iteration of it, it was something that I found on Playbill. And I didn't even like really read it. And so I didn't realize you had to like schedule an appointment. I was like, okay, randomly it starts at 1 o'clock. That's fine. I'll just go down there. And so I just went down there. I didn't have an appointment. And they just squeezed me in. And then I ended up booking that show. And that was like at a point where I was like teeter-tottering, like, do I want to continue in this industry? Because I was having like just the intense amount of rejection. And at the end of that first experience, Dr. Ama, who wrote the show, one of the writers, wrote me this very lovely card that the character I played, she almost wrote out, and seeing me perform it is what kept him in the show, or it made him much smaller, but almost wrote him out. He can't really write him out. He's the drama in the show. But it's one of those things where it's like, had I not gone to that audition, had I not looked on Playbill, had I been like, I've never seen these names before in my life, had I not gone, I wouldn't have that experience, and I wouldn't have the 4 years that I worked on that show.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to, when they were looking for somebody, being able to say, I know that just the person to do it, and then being able to do that demo, like all these experiences, though it didn't grow legs. Still possibility, but I don't think I'll be a part of it. But it's this experience, like nothing tangible came out of it, but I have stories and experiences and pushed myself in different ways that I know that you did in that. And it's just like, and it doesn't, and sometimes that's the payout, and it's
Yeah.
just what it is. And seeing you in that, I mean, like I said, I've experienced you from an audience. I've experienced you in lines at auditions, and you are the little social butterfly at auditions, but not in that distracting mean girl way that a lot of the other people auditioning are. You really are a little social butterfly, and people love you. But working with you as a castmate, you are like nuts in the best way. You make the boldest, most, just the biggest, boldest, beautiful choices, and you're such a chameleon, and you go like balls to the walls, full throttle, and it's just amazing to see, because like I still as an actor have so much self-doubt about things that I do at home versus what I bring into the rehearsal room, and you make
Mm.
these crazy fucking choices that are just like, how did you even think about that? Because it turns out that it's brilliant. Where does that come from? Are there actors that like you kind of have picked up from, that you look up to? Like, where does that come from?
The I remember when I was in 8th grade, I was a very shy kid. Many of us were. When I was younger, I had a stutter, so that made it even harder. And even still to this day, depending on how anxious I get, my stutter does come back.
Mm.
Um, when I was in eighth grade, I wanted to do this thing called declamation, which was like this public speaking contest. And I didn't have anything prepared because I was doubting myself. And my teacher finally said, like, just audition with anything you've got, even if it's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, just say something out loud in front of people. And I did all of Over the Moon from Rent in eighth grade. Like, I just started, and I remember I was in the computer lab, and I just remember looking down and going, last night I had a dream. And then they were in such shock that they had me go and do it 4 more times, both for my both eighth grade classes, and then for another class, the sixth graders, and then for another class. They had me do it 4 times because they could not believe that that I broke out of my shell. A kid who would never raise his hands. And it
Oh,
just,
wow.
yeah, it just stopped then. I My main source of inspiration inspirations is Charlie Chaplin and Robin Williams.
Hmm. He's
Uh,
right. He's on my wall.
yeah, those would definitely, if I were to look for inspiration when it comes to choices, it's that I I make big choices because I'm fully present in the moment.
Yeah.
Um, if I that's really it. That's what it's always been. I am so aware. I have this overactive brain and imagination that can be so debilitating in life for so many things, but when it comes to creating and being in the process of creating with others, it's such a gift because I can just turn off having any thoughts about what I'm doing and just do it and let somebody else tell me what they think, or let the audience reaction, let the cast reaction
Mm.
feed to me. Is this working? Is this right? I say this all the time, especially with those that I coach. I show up on time, which for all of us is early. I come as prepared as I can. I like to be memorized, and I come in with an idea. And that's all I ask of myself nowadays. I was never able to articulate that in my 20s, which is why I think I had so many so much franticness around auditioning and putting myself out there. Now that's it. I'm like, if I can go in and I can do those things and execute them, it's a good day. But
Yeah.
when it comes to strong choices, I think what also makes me so free to do them is because you can always take it down.
Mm-hmm.
For me, sometimes you have to make the big splash. You have to make the big, bold choice to be able to know how far can you extend to then bring it back from big picture into small picture and then start finding the nuances. As a director, I do very similarly, where the first thing I'll do is we'll get the minor aspects of what is the general staging. I can stage a show usually in 2 days. I'm just like, entrances are here, and this is less to do with character motivation or anything, and more to do with I've thought up how with costumes, with everything, where do people need to go? How does the flow work? And then we can go back, and then we can start tightening in on it. But for me, what I learned is big choices come at a cost.
Mm.
You will be told by casting directors you're doing too much. You will get calls to your reps saying he was kind of inappropriate, like he was all over the place in the room. It really made the director uncomfortable because he felt like he was very like just like batty and crazy. Like people have done that. I've had people who have called me in, send me emails being like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, like, that might have been a step too far." What does that mean? What does that, like,
It
I
means that
did.
they lack vision, because if you are going with the big, you can tailor back. You can say, "Hey, Josh, Can we, like, you can work with that. You can ask, can we try it this? Can we bring it down? It's harder to get people to go up. So it's their inability to communicate because, again, the joy I've seen watching you in a scene and these just, I mean, it's, I would also say I would throw Gene Wilder in the mix to
Yep.
the people, and like I would love to see you do Willy Wonka. I have my thoughts about the musical, but I know that with you in it, it would be phenomenal. But I definitely like, it's a their inability to communicate or know what to do with you, because it is something to marvel at, and it's why people show up, not just for your bass talent, but why people show up to a Josh show, why people flood the Laurie Beachman Theater, why people show up to Actoria, which I want to unpack right now with you. Like, the people show up because you create this space to where people feel safe, people feel seen, people can relate to you because you're giving 100% of yourself. And with that being said, I want to talk about Actoria because you created this amazing open mic, which gives us all a chance to sing more than 8 bars, 16 bars, all that. It was a huge part of the theater scene in New York City for a number of years, and it brought me so much joy because even a few times I'm like, I'm getting no, and then it's like I'm at this restaurant, I'm at this bar, and it's just like a flood of love. Can you tell our listeners like what Actoria was and
Yeah.
what birthed it?
We started Actoria in 2014, and we ran for 5 years. We ran up to the pandemic. Literally the Wednesday before the New York City shut down. And Actoria started as just a one night only event for the restaurant that I was working at, the Astor Room, for Halloween. And it was like speakeasy themed. And I remember specifically they had said we have budget to do this, like to get musicians or stuff. I was like, well, I have friends that are willing to like sing for drinks, so why don't we not do like the same old just like jazz trio, and we can bring them in. And we did it, and it was a hit. And I had one person, Katie Black, really believe in it, along with my manager at the time, Mark. And they were like, he's got something, like he's got something, and it's fun, and it's a space in Astoria that's in this really old, it's underneath Kaufman Studios. The restaurant's no longer there in that name. And it began with the help of so many producers, David Bryan Johnson, Amanda Blair, and Kayla Starr Bryan. Like, it became this thing that was on Wednesdays, that was, as you said, it was a curated open mic where people were able to be the spotlight performers, and we would have 4 to 6 every week. You would be able to sing 2 to 3 songs and not just 32-bar cuts. And it became, when we left the Astor Room, as it evolved and went to Beans and Lager and all of the other places that it's been home to, it became a place where you went on Wednesdays to be able to remind yourself why you are here in New York City, and to remind yourself that you do love what you're doing. Community is really important to me. Like you said, especially in my 20s. It's funny, now that I'm 37, I feel like I'm not a social butterfly when I go to auditions. I feel like I just sit there and don't say a word to anyone. But in my 20s, I loved the community aspect of auditioning, of
Yeah.
getting to check in with everyone. And
You know, it's funny when I brought it up. Obviously I haven't thought about this in years, but when I was describing you in line and seeing you in line, I just like there was this. You had like stances, and it was just like you could identify Josh because he's hugging his binder, he's leaning forward, he's has one leg out, and he's constantly like rocking and this while he's talking to his sir. And it's just like I'm like keep it serious because like in my head I'm just seeing you just like do your poses, and it's just like hilarious because it you and in some ways there are people who do that and it's distracting and they do
yep,
it on purpose, and you, it's kind of like you hype people up,
I
and
love
it's
that.
exactly
Thank
what
you.
you did with Actoria, and it's like people, could get footage of their performances. The wonderful Amy Sims,
Hmm.
you got free photography, so then you could have something on your website, something professional looking, so that way when you want to do your own show, you can use that photo as part of the art. Like, just ways to get people seeing themselves as a professional. You're singing for free in a
It's all
restaurant,
free. It's all free.
but
That
look
was the
at
biggest thing for
the
me.
professionalism that is around it. Like, yeah.
That was the biggest thing for me, was there was never a minimum. We never told anyone that they had to buy a ticket. There was none of that ever. We were able to do that, and that's also why we kept it in Astoria, was because in Astoria we found people who believed in us enough to say, we promise to bring the people who will buy the food and bring the drinks, and we did, and everybody showed up in that community. Because in Manhattan, it's very hard. It's very hard when you're working in the industry, in the hospitality industry, and you're trying to get to Ripley Greer in the morning. Listen, you cannot be going to the 54 Below in Green Room 42 every, 3 times a week. Fortunately, there are some places now, over time, when the pandemic came back, which have become more affordable, or have created ways for artists to be able to come and see shows without having to pay minimums for food and stuff. But it's still tricky. And yes, everybody's trying to make money, but Actoria was meant to be, I always said this, I always wanted it to feel like the fun that we had. Like, if you had the best time of your life at an audition in a holding room, that's what I wanted Actoria to feel like. I wanted it to feel
Mm.
like the holding room you wanted to stay in. And we did that. We did that, and we had a wonderful run. And I am constantly grateful, like, to you and to any person who comes up to me and takes a second to just say what it meant to them, because it was very hard to put that chapter away. A lot of people still to this day ask, will Actoria come back? And I never put definitives, but the answer is I don't know. It came about because the restaurants came about that believed in us and allowed us the space and the opportunity. And until there is another restaurant and space for that, I don't have an answer. But at the same time, what I'm so touched by is to have seen so many people, like my creative partner Anthony Fett, who currently does once a month down at Stonewall Inn. He
Yeah.
does an All Stars night, which is the exact same feel that Actoria had, which is, it's about music and community, and it's free, and you come and you have a great time. He's at the Monster on Fridays and Saturdays for open bar piano, so that you can go after a shift. He's there late. Another friend, Eric Schleck, is doing a new spotlight night in a Hell's Kitchen location. It's there, and there's people who are doing it. So that also makes me feel like maybe that's not my torch to carry any longer, and to move on to doing other things. And
Because
that's
it is
where
work. You put a lot of work into that.
it's a lot of work, and it takes a labor of love, and it is not necessarily it doesn't pay back in financial aspects. It does in your heart. And for me now, what I've moved towards a little more is, I coach a lot of actors, and I do the same thing. The amount that I charge per hour for coaching is to keep it as minimal and affordable, so that I still can pay something off, but that nobody is feeling hindered of getting their voice lessons, getting their gym membership, their dance classes, while working with me. I want to be on your team. I want to root for you and cheer you on and work in that capacity, because I think right now I see myself. I don't think I'll ever leave being a performer. I don't think that's possible
Yeah.
for any of us. I just don't. I don't think it's possible, because it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. But I do see myself transitioning more towards directing,
Yeah.
and being on that table, which really, I'm grateful to Actoria. I'm grateful to the hospitality industry, because it's all the same stuff. It's being able to have a vision, being able to see the macro and the micro, being able to respect and have deep appreciation for everyone you are working with and the jobs that they are doing, being able to tell a story, knowing who your audience is and who's coming in and why are we even doing it. Treating people the way that they want to come into a room and they feel like they are safe and that they feel loved on and they can just come create and make mistakes and get up and fall and get up again and fall. I'm very interested in that. That's what I want at the moment, is to be able to help tell the stories that need to be told. I don't know if I need to be the vessel at the moment. And that's very hard to say because we're all so attached to this one thing that our past selves think that we need to be. But even just saying it out loud on this podcast, it makes me feel good. I just want to be of service. And I think that's why, as much as I agree, I think this is my last year, my last restaurant, and maybe my last year in the hospitality industry. Let's do it
together. Let's do it together, sister.
Seriously, what I will never ever be able to articulate that the most important thing in my life that gives me purpose is a sense of service to others.
Yeah.
And so whether it's going this afternoon and pouring a glass of Pinot Grigio or being able to be of service to a fellow actor or to someone on the street, that's what keeps me going, especially in these dark times. It really does. So I'm grateful for it. And like I always say, we all have problems. Let's just all hope to have better problems next year.
Exactly. So I know we're pushing the time right now. We're getting there.
Yes.
So I want to wrap. This is going to be my first two-parter episode. I've never had an episode go this long, and
I'm sorry.
It.
No, it's
no,
good. Okay.
It's a great thing. It's because there's just so much, and there's still so much we did not talk about. So I'd love to have you back again.
Yes.
But let's actually hold accountable. Like when we're both at our restaurants, we will do a revisit episode. But to wrap up, I want people to know where to find you, where to support you, how to reach out as a coach, how to see you perform. How can people support you? Here's your time to let us know.
Honestly, the best way you can support me is to call up someone and tell them that you love them and to check on your best friend. Check on the person who's smiling all the time at work and ask them how they're doing. I'm a suicide survivor. I am constantly, since I was a kid, I have struggled with my mental health. It's hard for some people to even understand that because they see the smiling guy who puts others before himself, and I am working on that. Every day is a part of the process. Everybody needs somebody to check in on them and love them. That's the most important thing you could do for me. If you want to come in and check in on what I'm doing or what random thing I've posted and might consider deleting tomorrow, all of my platforms are at Josh Bardier. Just my name, all lowercase. Coaching, you can just get at me. Get at me on Instagram. I love working with actors. The biggest thing I am working on right now with actors is the concept of the paradigm shift of not thinking about auditions as auditions, but thinking of everything as a work session. It's very process-based, and it's really, really coming to terms with, if we're going to put this much effort into auditions, into these roles, to go into rooms for first looks or self-tapes, we might as well be treating it like we have the job and that we're going in, giving it, even if it's for 5 minutes, the time and energy and performance that we would want to give it. But the biggest thing I say to actors is just go in wanting to show that you want to work. You want to work, you want to collaborate. So I can be found, as I always say, I'm the cheapest person you will ever find as a coach, and that's so that you can still keep taking your voice lessons, your dance classes, everything. Nothing that I do is something you need to do every single week. I'm here to help you. It's why I call myself a coach more than anything and not a teacher is because I'm here to support you and in the ways that you need. As far as projects coming up, I have nothing. So if you need a director, baby, I'll do it
He's
for
available.
free. We're
He
available.
he is available. We are available. Tuacon, call me.
Two,
CD.
it's
You know what's funny? I had
what's
to
the season for Tuacon?
I had to move to fucking LA to get called in by that team. And I got to tell you, they're the nicest people in the
The
world.
nicest people.
The nicest people. They're doing Newsies, so I was called in for Pulitzer. They're doing Wizard of Oz, so I had to learn 6 different roles for that. And then I can't remember what the other one was, but I had so much fun working on that packet. It's one of the best auditions I've ever had, just as far as not even just talent wise, just like being in that room. They're so freaking nice. But
Yeah.
we're enough about me. We're getting close to your time of departure, and I want to make sure that we hit our last thing, which is I like to end the show. You know, especially having mentioned reviews earlier, how they get a life of their own. And it's always the bad ones that seem to get a little more traction, and
Yeah.
the good ones, good news, people aren't always, feel the urge to share the good news. So I want to know, who is somebody that you'd like to very quickly shout out today and just thank them for making a tough shift a little easier for you.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm gonna actually steal that and make people do that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
gorgeous. I want shout out to Judy. Shout out to Judy, who is one of the most caring, helpful, empathetic people I have ever worked with, and who truly can make me laugh even when I just want to stick my head in the oven,
Yeah.
which my head won't fit in the oven because it's too small. But yeah, man, if you can laugh while you're working, there's nothing better.
God bless. Well, there you have it, Judy. This episode has been for you. Thank you so much for all that you do to make our tough shifts better. Clearly, the world needs more people like you. This has been another episode of Tough Shift. And just remember that tough shifts build character, and character is what brings your story to life. Take care. If you or someone you know is struggling emotionally or having a hard time, don't wait to get help. Please reach out to the National Institute of Mental Health for a full list of resources. You can visit www.nimh.nih.gov, or you can call or text 988. Take care of yourselves, and let's take care of each other. Tough Shift was created and hosted by Sean Patrick Murtagh. It was recorded on Riverside and distributed with Buzzsprout. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review and maybe a comment or two. And remember, tough shifts build character, and character is what brings your story to life.